What is up, YouTube? McIntyre here. Today I wanted to bring you guys my first impression video of Cassia. She was just released yesterday with the Heroes 2.0 beta update, I guess you could call it. Anyways, this character is a new ranged assassin that kind of feels somewhat like a melee assassin, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that her basic attack range is fairly low, as I'll show you right now. I mean, it's almost lower than Tychus's, if not the same as Tychus. So she doesn't really have the ability to, poke. Yes, you can kite with her, and you should be because of her passive, giving you block when you move. But she's not another Vala, let's say. So I have a gameplay of her that I am gonna upload, and I'm gonna put at the end of the video. It's also gonna be in the description if you just want to go watch that instead. That game was the first time I had ever played her or even tried her. So you can see as the game goes on, I start to get a kind of understanding of her kit. So that's basically what I want to do with you guys today. Talk about her kit, talk about two different builds with her, and talk about what you want to be trying to do with her. So her first, like I said before, the first thing we want to talk about is that she gains 65 physical armor when she moves. So you can see her shield lights up. This is just really good for, if people are hitting you, if you're getting targeted. Even when you're just attacking, you can see, I have my shield up for the most part because she has a fairly fast attack speed. With that said, though, you do need to get used to her attack speed because you can cancel autos fairly easy with her because of her kind of low range, right? So be careful when you are trying to attack and move with her, as you can cancel her auto, but for the most part it's fairly fast, as you can see here. This is gonna keep your uptime on your passive, and we want to do that as much as possible. The first ability that we want to talk about is Lightning Fury. This is just a poke. Oh man, it does 421 damage, too close. So it's just a poke, and when you hit, it bounces. This is just a skill shot. This does, however, synergize with Blinding Light. So Blinding Light, after 5.5 seconds, blinds a target for 2 seconds in front of you. And Cassia deals 15% increased damage to blinded targets. So the ways that you should be using this, let's toggle down super quickly. For wave clear, it's really good. So I usually blind the wave, and then I'll rend. That was the worst example ever, but you guys get the point. If I reset the minions here, let me reset the minions, refresh forts. This should spawn out a new minion wave, but the idea is when the two minion waves meet, maybe not when they're so staggered like that, they come in together, and your wave clear here is going to be to blind and then kill the whole wave. All right, so that looked a lot better. So you really want to blind things, even camps, right? You can blind easies. You can blind hards, you can blind boss, I want to say. Let's see if you can blind boss. Maybe I'm lying to you guys. Alright, so you cannot blind boss, but you can blind the hard camp. You can blind these. I'm not sure about, Garden of Terror or Haunted Mines with the little minions. But whatever you're blinded, you increase your damage of all your things. So even your Q, your E, right, we saw. So this is a really nice little passive. And it's an essential part to her kit, especially if you can get other blinding heroes on your team. And so the last skill that I want to talk about that I kind of showed off now is Fend. Charge at an enemy upon arriving, channel for 1.5 seconds, dealing 171 damage to enemies in front of her every 0.25. And this is reduced to non-heroes, but as you can see, it does do a fair amount of damage to non-heroes. So we'll just use it super quick. It's her all in, and it's her burst damage, right? So a lot of the time you're like poking, you're trying to auto your best you can, then maybe they come in on you, you blind them, and then you go in for the Fend, right? So it does a lot of burst damage, So let me super quickly, before I look at talents, I'm going to talk about the ultimates as well. Ball Lightning is really powerful. This is like an insane 1v1 ability, and it's amazing in the late game because of the level 20 talent, Infinite Lightning. This bounces indefinitely, and every time it hits, it decreases the cooldown by 4 seconds. So, if it bounces 10 times, this is going to be on a 20-second cooldown, and it's very possible in a cluttered team fight that it can bounce 10 times. But essentially what it does is you throw it, it bounces onto the target, and it can bounce back to you and back to the target. So it's a Plague Rider ult if you've played Han, or I think Lich is what it used to be in Dota. Essentially it doesn't slow, but it bounces, and it can bounce between you and the person. So the reason I say this is a good 1v1 ability is, as you can see, you have this does an insane amount of DPS, and this scales too with your blind, right? So if we wanted to do like a full burst combo with this ability, you would blind, throw it, throw your Q, and then fend, right? So 4,000 damage total on a burst combo, which is absurd, right? Really good. If you have any sort of CC in front of you too, you can bust that combo out pretty easy. And the other ultimate now, let me reset my talents, is Valkyrie, and this is your pick talent basically. If you want to try to get a pick, this is the best way to do it. I last night couldn't really get the range down, but then eventually I figured it out. So as long as they're in this little tube when you cast it, the Valkyrie spawns kind of outside of the tube and then pulls them in, right? So if they're in the tube, he'll pull, but if they're right outside of the tube, let me see if I can, then it'll miss, right? So you're not aiming, you're only aiming for the tube. And as long as they're in it, the Valkyrie will hit the first target. That target will be stunned and coming towards you. What I like to do is I would pull blind, throw my Q, and then I would fend when they got back to me, right? I think that's the best way to do it. So you would throw your combo, blind them as they're flying towards you, hit your Q, and then when they get behind you, fend. I mistimed it there. One more time. Something like that, right? This obviously needs to be practice, but I got to the hang of it last night in the gameplay, and you'll see that if you go watch the gameplay after this video of the combo kind of in action. So we're going to reset talents again, and we're going to talk about builds. There's a Q build and there's a E build. All right, so the first one that we talk about is the Q build. We'll take Thunderstroke. This just increases the damage of our Q, and then after we hit 40 people, we get a second charge of Q and reduce the cooldown of it. So you can reset, we can complete quests, and now we have 2 of these. So yeah, pretty sick poke actually. At level 4, there's a lot of really good ones. Inner Light is nice. This is when you get blind or stunned or rooted, you then cast a blinding light around you, and it also increases the radius of your blinding light, so it makes your blinding light a bit bigger. Really powerful, honestly. But I last night took Ring of the Leech, which I think is also really good. You heal for 25% of the damage you do to blinded enemies. This can, when I did that 4,000 damage, I'm going to heal myself for 1,000 during that. So that can be really powerful. The next is going to be Plate of the Whale. This is just a regen. It's actually pretty good, I guess. After you've absorbed 75 basic attacks with your passive, you increase 10% health. But you're probably going to heal more off of this, or you get more value off of this than you would. So I'll just take Ring of Leeching for now. At 7, there's a few choices, but I personally think Impale is the best. It's enemies below 40% take 50% increase from Fend. So as you saw in that combo, towards the end of their health bar, they're going to take even more from your Fend. This talent seems kind of wacky. You gain movement speed, but after you attack or stop moving, you move. Oh, sorry. After you use an ability or stop moving, this gets canceled. So it's just kind of a weird talent, honestly. Surge of Light can be really good if they have a bunch of melee heroes, but for the most part, we're going to take Impale. Now, the heroic is all map dependent, and what is the other team comp. As you see in my gameplay, I took Valkyrie to try to kill Gul'dan, but if the other team has a bunch of melee or clumps, Ball Lightning is really powerful, especially with a 20 talent. At 13, we are going to take Thunder God's Vigor. So every time my Q hits, it'll decrease the cooldown of it by 1, right? You could, if you were going like something like a blind build, this could be okay. And the slow's not bad either, especially with the 1 talent, but we get a lot of synergy off the Thunder God's Vigor and the cooldown reduction because we're going to take Pierce at 16. So now our Q can pierce through people. So if we hit 3 people with our Q, then our Q was going to go back on a 1 second cooldown, right? And since we have 2 of these, I mean, now we're just really throwing Qs at the enemy team, right? It's very, very annoying and very powerful. And again, at 20 now, we have the 2 heroics. If you take the ball lightning, I would say go lightning. If not, Titan's Revenge is pretty neat. You get an increased basic attack range, and you ignore armor, which I guess the game, Heroes and Blizzard are trying to introduce armor to the game. So I like this, and I hope more talents go this way. Like Armor Cleave, right? Like Sven or something like that. Degen or something that knocks armor off of people. That's an aura or an activatable within Heroes kids. But yeah, Infinite Lightning is just kind of absurd. And again, this is really good for the 1v1. They do not get away from you. They do not get away from this ball lightning, and it will kill someone. So this is the first build, the Q build, and we're gonna go now and talk about the E build. So let's reset our talents. We also have the ability to go, True Sight. This is so True Sight. I think this is more for E build, honestly. This is going to increase the bonus damage of your blind, so your Finn should do more. And this works really well with your team if they have blinds, right? So you damage blinded enemy heroes 80 times with abilities or basic attacks. So every time you hit them with a Finn, you get this passive proc, right? With this build too, I think Inner Light's fairly strong because you're basically going to be using your W and your E to execute on some sort of burst, right? That's the way for me to explain this build. So the other build is a poke build, and this is a one-shot build, right? This is the burst build. So Inner Light's really good. Excellent. And then we're going to take Impale again, and either of these are very powerful, honestly. You could take Valk if you're trying to pull them in, one-shot them. At 13, this is where you want to take the Lunging Strike. So this is going to increase the range and the area, and it's going to be a little bit harder to run out of, plus it will increase the duration. I was going to say, this is, you can get more blinding lights off of this, but I think the duration is more powerful here. And then we have Penetrate, which is 3% increase every time Ben hits consecutively. And now we have, again, these two choices. I took Titan's Revenge last night, but Imprisoning Light seems pretty good. When you impale, you create a wave of light that roots everyone near them for 3 seconds. So you have like an even more valuable kind of ability on top of it. So now with this build, right, we would do the same thing. And just burst someone out, hopefully, during that combo. But these are the two builds that I would suggest at the moment. Again, both heroics are very powerful. Both of the heroics 20s are very powerful. Titan Revenge can be good too. I will say it doesn't feel like you auto that much, again, as I said in the beginning, because her range is so low. But, there are times when you do get in auto attacks, and, if you do play aggressive, then, you can auto out of Finn. But I think a lot of her damage ends up coming from her abilities. So, but with that said, this is the Cassia review for me. These are the two builds that I would suggest currently. If anyone has any other build suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. Maybe I overlooked or oversaw a talent or a tech talent in this case. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you all so much. If you enjoyed this, make sure to throw a like and subscribe. You can always follow me on Twitch and Twitter. Those will both be located below in the description. I'll also have a gameplay hopefully showing up somewhere on the screen right now, so go check that out. It was a lot of fun. That was the first time I'd even read about the character or even seen any of her talents, so you can see as the game progresses, I get a little more familiar with her. But thank you guys all so much, and until the next video, I'll see you then. Cheers.